KC, how are you?
Make sure to keep me on AM, baby. I'm not good enough for FM.
Only today, Casey. Only today.
All right. What's up, guys?
The Bulls made a trade. I think that's more important than the horrendous game they played. My God, I mean, that first quarter, they couldn't hit a shot, and they just kept handing the ball over. I've never seen anything like it, and they fell behind, and they stayed behind, and I think Chuck at the end of the game sounded like he was relieved it was over.
As we all were.
Something like that. We all were. What was that like, and did they just run out of energy? How do you explain it?
Well, the disappointing thing was how well they played the night before, obviously,
right,
with the reserves. And look, both teams are missing guys, so that's not really an excuse. And then you get two of your main players back in Coby and Vooch, and then to lay that kind of egg is disturbing. And Miami definitely increased their defensive energy and intensity in that first quarter. I thought they really cut off driving lanes pretty well, and they were very physical and active defensively. But yeah, you just don't see many games where teams are down 54. There were a couple other games like that yesterday in the league, though, which was pretty crazy. They all happened on the same day. Not much to say after a game like that, other than obviously you got to be better for what's coming ahead.
So, KC, what's coming ahead might be more deals, especially after Saturday's trade, which left the Bulls with 2 second-round draft picks. And there were some other players that were maneuvered around, but it felt like this was the first of another move, maybe several more. How would you interpret what exactly happened Saturday night with the Bulls?
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee that these picks will be involved in any other business they try to do between now and Thursday, but it helps the cause, and that's really the way of the modern NBA. It's just accumulating as much draft capital as possible, or as many assets as possible, as you try to make deals. And speaking frankly, I mean, the Bulls haven't valued second-round picks as much as some teams in recent past, and this is a sign that they're kind of open to that, and to me, it kind of aligns with the new phase that they're in this rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it. Because you heard Arturas Karnisovas at media day kind of give a different messaging that he didn't mention playoffs. He mentioned building while competing. It's clear that they've identified Matas and Josh Giddey as core pieces, but other than that, with 7 expiring deals and now all your draft capital and getting some more. I can just tell you the Bulls are active, but that doesn't guarantee they'll be able to get anything else done between now and Thursday, but they're certainly trying to do so.
What grade would you give them for that trade? Somebody said that it's the best trade AK has made because they got 2 picks for nothing. I laughed at it, but
yeah, I mean, it's a smart trade. It's a win on the margin trade. It's a win on the margin trade. I would probably call the Alex Caruso or DeMar DeRozan trade the best trades he's made. I mean, those were incredible sign-in trades, not going out but coming in. But no, it's a win on the margins, and it's like I said, it kind of aligns with the modern NBA and where the league is going. This is the kind of business a lot of teams do, and you're basically using your financial sheet, which is pretty clean for the Bulls, to accumulate assets, and all it costs is the remainder of Dario Saric's contract for this season. So it's a smart move for sure.
KC, I think Dosunmu had 5 games in January where he scored 20 or more points, and he has been a bright spot. It's been a pretty dim week. So I look at the trade deadline looming on Thursday, and I said in the previous segment that the Bulls are going to have to make some choices if they are in fact going to make a deal. I would choose Io over Coby at this point. I think that both sides can make a good argument. I don't know if they keep both. I don't know if they would trade both. How do you see that equation working out, and do you have an opinion?
They have different strengths. I don't have a strong opinion. I mean, I can see them, quite frankly, they could keep both. It doesn't sound like they want to, but they have the money to do so. The question is then what is your ceiling? Since you've had both those guys for a while, and they've now identified Josh Giddey as a core piece by re-signing him last summer. So I don't expect that to happen, but I mean, there's no saying that they couldn't re-sign both, because they could. That said, the sense I've gotten is that they've been a little bit more open to list or to the Coby market, but I also can tell you unequivocally that the people I talk to around the league, there's definitely more of a market currently for Dosunmu than Coby White. Now, again, things change pretty quickly as we get into this week and the last 48, 24 hours. So my sense is if they do make a trade, they'll pick the best one between their offers for either player. And I do think it's going to come down to one or the other. Which one of that is, I can't tell you.
So there's a lot of rumors floating around. I saw that all of a sudden the Bulls are in play for Giannis. Do they know that? Pretty interesting to see that speculated on. Is Zion Williamson the guy that shows up here? Who is it that they're looking for, in your opinion, that could be a Bull by the end of the week?
I don't see them going big game hunting at all. I've not heard that. I don't know where those rumors are coming from. I mean, have they maybe had calls about just kicking the tires or seeing what that would take? I mean, the Giannis situation. I mean, personally, this is just my personal opinion. I think that's going to happen in the off season rather than this week. I just think it's too big of a deal to push over the finish line this week, and more teams will have more things in play over the summer, closer to the draft. That's just my personal feeling, but let's just play it out hypothetically. If you're talking about Giannis to the Bulls, I mean, you're sending them all of your draft picks, all of your young stars or young players, including Modest, and then you have Giannis and Dalen Terry. I mean, I'm just hypothetically speaking here, So I just don't see that as a realistic scenario. As far as what they're looking for, it's pretty clear to me what they're looking for. They're looking for players on, younger players on, who either going to be restricted free agents or on rookie scale contracts who have kind of fallen out of favor with their current teams. And that would kind of fit the recent mold of his acquisitions. If you've looked at, Isaac Okoro, Jalen Smith, young players that have NBA experience that can kind of, keep pushing this thing forward in their minds. I mean, they're obviously still stuck in the middle of the standings, but that's the kind of the philosophy they're using to rebuild this team.
If I'm hearing you correctly, the Bucks would want all the Bulls' young players except Dalen Terry.
That's the headline.
KC, so how does yesterday happen? You said it happened in a couple other instances in the NBA games, and I know it is a long season, so there are going to be moments like that. It just feels like the Bulls had a couple of those in the past week alone, and after the big victory over Boston, there was a lot of excitement because of all of the nostalgia with Derrick Rose, and then the Pacers lost, and then yesterday they were non-competitive. How as close to the team as you are, do you still have a hard time figuring this out, or is there a simple explanation for why the Bulls are so bad when they are that bad?
Well, the Pacers game was competitive. I mean, they were in charge of that game until the end when they blew it at the end. So that game was a competitive loss, albeit against a team that has 12 wins with 3 of them against the Bulls. Yesterday, I don't have an explanation for. I mean, that's just bad. And I mean, the overall explanation I would give you is, this team's right at 500 or just slightly under 500. They're in the middle. They're a very average team by record, by standings. I mean, I'm not saying that like as a adjective, average team. I mean, saying that as like a fact. That's what their record says they are. They're an average team, so they're right around 500. So, but to have a non-competitive loss by that, I mean, that's one of those. We've all been in locker rooms after that. I mean, what are you going to ask somebody? I mean, how are you down 54 points? You don't go for blood in those moments. You just kind of Billy was short in his press conference. Players were short when we talked to him. There's not a lot to ask when you see that. I mean, other than did you feel like you were prepared, and what happened in that first quarter when they jumped on you? So I don't have really much of an explanation after that.
KC, I keep reading that the Bulls will have $68 million at the end of the year, something like that. What's the value of that? Is that just money for them to re-sign their guys? Is there anybody out there? Do they have any plan for the future with all this stuff?
So a couple things on that. First of all, not a great free agency class. Second of all, some of that could be affected by cap holds depending on who's on the team past the trade deadline. Let's say Coby's still on the roster and you want to maybe keep him in a situation where you could sign and trade him in this summer. He would have a cap hole, which would cut into that cap space. But that's the negative stuff. The positive stuff is that's the kind of stuff that teams now use to utilize accumulating assets. Is they can, if you have cap space, you can trade things into that cap space or sign a restricted free agent from another team to an offer sheet that's prohibitive for the other team to re-sign him. That's the stuff where you can strategically use your cap space in this day and age where free agency largely is going away. The summers of courting LeBron and showing up at Chris Bosh's doorstep at 12:01, those are gone. I mean, that's in this new age of aprons and luxury taxes. Free agency is not the same as it used to be. But when you can use cap space still in a positive way to accumulate assets or target a player that you like, that you can make another team difficult to re-sign if he's a restricted free agent.
Jevon Carter scored 11 points in 20 minutes on Saturday night, and then he found out he had been waived. I just wonder was that just an NBA business, and that's the way it goes? Is he somebody you could see landing on a contender? Does he have a role? He's a guy that was praised also by younger players on the way out as someone whose professionalism was valued in that locker room.
Yeah, pretty surreal scene. And to me, that his last night was indicative of kind of his time in Chicago, to go from being out of the rotation to getting a chance and scoring 11 points, hitting double figures, and just being ready and being professional. And then after the game, finding out you're waived, that to me kind of almost encapsulates this Bulls tenure. Spectacular presence in the locker room, and I don't use that word lightly. Really incredible example for the young players. One of my favorite guys to talk to. Never complained. Knew he had the talent to be in this league and to contribute, but role wasn't there. Would tell me every day he's in the NBA was a great day. Would just come to work. Just a really, really strong presence. I hope he lands another team, whether that happens, to finish out this season or re-sign somewhere next season. Billy Donovan said the exact same thing, that if coaches call him, all he's going to do is rave about the guy. Patrick Williams talked about the example he set for young players consistently about not complaining and showing up and being ready and being a professional and doing your work every day. So really can't say enough great things about Jevon Carter. Really enjoyed my time talking to him about basketball and about Chicago high school basketball scene.
Right.
Great family guy. Wish him nothing but the best moving forward.
Yeah, that was a real weird one, and it's a pity because he's a really good guy, but that's the NBA. As you look at this team, and we keep talking, you mentioned Patrick Williams. Can't tell you how many times people are like, can they trade this guy and include Patrick Williams? It's almost like everyone's just looking for a way out of that contract, not to really get anything for it. What are they looking for when they go into this thing? I mean, we know the names of the players, the big names we've talked about, Giannis. Is there anything that they can do that would change this team? Are they kind of on this? I mean, what is it? 39 wins for 2 straight seasons, 40 before that. You just look at the way that things have gone. It's almost like they're aiming to repeat their record, not a championship.
Well, I mean, that's what they've been stuck in the middle for a while. I mean, their sense is that this season is the first kind of coming out of that last iteration of the roster, and now they've obviously identified target core pieces in Modest and Josh Giddey, and they've got all their draft capital back. So they kind of feel like this last season was the start of the reset, and they're going to keep trying to build by adding young talent to that, either whether that's this week or this summer. And then obviously, like I said, they've got all their draft capital maintained. Now, could they cash in some of that draft capital for a young piece? Maybe. They're not going to do a trade where they, started over like they did with Vooch, where they cash in and surprisingly sped up the situation. That they've repeatedly said, we're going to be patient. We're not going to skip steps. So I would not expect them to cash in draft capital for a big name this week. And I, quite frankly, like I said, I think it's going to be a pretty quiet week. Maybe a trade of Coby or Io, but I don't expect there to be like a big name involved.
Is Modest Buzelis on schedule according to the Bulls' long-range plan? Because you see nights like Saturday, and there were some encouraging moments, and then you look, he had a career-high 8 turnovers, and there are a lot of nights like that. He had a very good month of January, and I just wonder where he is as the Bulls kind of reassess things or hit reset at the trade deadline.
I mean, this is his first season as being a full-time starter, starting every game, playing 27, 28, 30 minutes a night, being on other teams' scouting report. I've talked to Modest about this multiple times. He's really, really pleased with where he's at, while always looking inward and pushing himself to get better. He always tells me there's development happens in a lot of different ways. It's not always statistically based. It's about learning how to manage your body, learning how to handle starting every game. The dude is the only player on the team who's played every game. I mean, I think just being out there and being available this young, being a full-time starter in your second year, there's development just in that. And also being on the other team's scouting report and still doing what you're doing. I've seen a lot of really good signs from Modest this year. I think his on-the-ball defense has gotten better. Last season, a lot of his damage defensively was from the weak side and just coming over to block shots. And he has good weak side awareness, but I think he's gotten much better on the ball. Not perfect. He's got a lot of nights where he struggles physically still. But there's been significant growth in that area. I don't really look at statistics when I look at Modest. I look at how he's playing, how he's handling this new increased responsibility, how he's handling landing on other teams' scouting reports. I'm really high personally, and I know the Bulls are as well.
I'm just curious. You saw that that LeBron was named to the All-Star game. That keeps his run going. We were talking about him. Was that his last trip to town? And everyone kind of thinks, well, he likes the attention. He probably comes back for one of those goodbye years where everybody gets to tell him how great he's been and how wonderful he is, and gets him a rocking chair or something. Maybe a throne down in Miami. I don't know what he's looking for. But what do you think? You think he's back? Do you think this is the end? Do you think, he looks pretty good as a player at 41?
I think he's back. I think, like you, I think he'd want a farewell tour. I don't know how Kawhi Leonard didn't make the All-Star game. I'll tell you that. I mean, he's played more games than LeBron. He's leading the league in steals and free throw percentage, averaging a career high in points, shooting 50, 40, 90. I was stunned he didn't make the All-Star game, but LeBron one might have been kind of a farewell gift. You never know with that guy, but I personally think he'll be back for one more year and obviously choose to end his career how he wants to end it.
Safe travels, KC.
Thanks, KC. Great stuff.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks, man. See ya.